We anticipate in the next 10 to 12 years approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians. You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're going to get kicked out of being number 2. You're going to go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a third grade education would tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you all jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you can guess what you're going to get when you become number 4.
President Biden, do you support reparations?
Well, I mean, since I haven't spoken on this, got a chance. Number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single continent. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 of our 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is that not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America. Systemic racism that has plagued our nation for far, far too long. I said that over the course of the past year that the blinders have been taken off the nation, the American people. But what many Americans didn't see or had simply refused to see couldn't be ignored any longer. Those 8 minutes and 46 seconds that took George Floyd's life opened the eyes of millions of Americans and millions of people. It was the knee on the neck of justice, and it wouldn't be forgotten. And it's not white Americans' fault, but just a fact.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today, many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
We are owed $104 trillion on the very low end, plus $735 billion recurring. This number does not include the cost of about 50 Black Wall Streets that were decimated, nor compound interest from 2017 when Sean B. Rochester's book, The Black Tax, was published, nor the cost of Black life, nor the cost of living increases, nor the war on drugs, nor the current day pandemic. The number I'm working with is for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives.
Good evening on the West Coast. Good evening in the mountain. Good evening in the central. Good evening on the East Coast. You know exactly who it is, family. Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the reparationist perspective, bringing you those ADOTs, hot topics, and making the case for reparations, making the case for weaponizing our vote and socializing our suffering. And today, family, I want to welcome you to the 6 p.m. edition of Ida B. Wells Presents Anti-Black Racism, family, keeping a huge spotlight on anti-Black racism since we're being neglected by the government, whom 87% of our electorate put into the White House. The mainstream media is neglecting ADOCs, the very descendants of the ancestors who built the country with their lives. And I'm so glad to have you here. I want to welcome you, Cynthia Adeyemi, Amos Jones. Welcome to the live family. And for those of you who've yet to check where you are viewing me from, welcome to the live. Thank you so much for joining me. We've got a full show tonight, as they always are. I'm going to try to get this done in an hour or less. Okay, that's enough time to let you guys follow in and catch me from the top of the show. I do that intro to keep reparations at the top of everybody's mind. We're not letting it go. The new black media, myself especially, is on those reparations. Every show I do is to make that case. I want to give you guys an update. I was sharing with you earlier about the 82-year-old whose home is being foreclosed on, who's still working as a bookkeeper. Her husband died from pancreatic cancer. And Carlton Square here in Inglewood, next door to a $5 billion stadium that has been built, has foreclosed on her home, claiming she owes $38,000 in HOA arrears. Well, during that segment of As the World of ADOCs Turns, I shared with you about a white inferior glacier donkey who has had her spikes on my neck ever since she colluded with one of the white homeowners to try and take my property from me by putting liens on my property that she was getting kickbacks on when I fell into arrears because I lost employment. Actually, I walked off the job because of the stress that killed two of my friends. That was Wells Fargo Bank. You've seen it in the archives I've shared about it. Well, this woman came from my property and charged me $15,000 for $3,000 in arrears that my sister had agreed to pay off because I was in between jobs. Why? Because in Los Angeles, you've got to be bilingual. It took about a year to find a job. And this white inferior woman, you know, we were their property. This white inferior glacier donkey of a woman decided to lien me $15,000 on three, would not accept the three from my sister. And I was sharing with, what's up, Black Magic? I see you, family. Thank you guys for joining the live. And so I was sharing on the earlier segment of As the World of ADOCs Turns, your midday wake-up call, that this is institutional systemic racism on every front. We're being assaulted. And so I paid the $15K. And then when I bought the account current, yes, ma'am, economic exclusion. When I bought the account current and I was seated on the board, she came for my jugular again. What she would do to rack up over thousands of dollars of arrears on my account was disable my ability to pay my HOA timely online. I had to mail the payments in. By the time they received notice of the payments, it took a couple of weeks. Now she can attach a late fee and on top of that, compound interest because I refused to pay it. Oh, she was a son of a biatch, okay? And this is what they do. And so they have foreclosed on Miss Frazier's property. I'm going to share the link with you to help with the GoFundMe. Last time I checked, I think it was around $75,000 of $250,000. We're trying to save her property. But I need you to understand how these race soldiers work to exclude us and to permanently tie us to the bottom as the anchor of this country's capitalism, which our ancestors built with their lives through the worst heinous chattel slave labor known to the born world. So they're trying to squeeze a working bookkeeper of 82 years who purchased the home in Inglewood with her late husband who died from pancreatic cancer. And there's a GoFundMe. I was making the parallels to how they squeeze you out of existence, where you don't have anything left to give to your kids, to give to your family. No wealth. This is why I fight every day for ADOCs, reparations, and social and economic justice and inclusion. To my last breath, that's my square. My friend called me up and said, can we just talk about you? I am the movement. I don't know how to have a conversation independent of the designs to ethnically cleanse my people up out of here. Because I've got a daughter to leave this to. So I've got work to do, not just for my daughter, but for y'all's daughters and granddaughters and great-granddaughters. So no, don't call me if you want to talk about me. This is it. This is it. I don't have time to lollygag, to watch reality TV. When the reality for ADOCs is ethnic cleansing by the very government we keep giving a trifecta to. Okay? It is a land grab, Cynthia. It is a land grab. What's up, Obsidian? Obsidian, I see you. Propaganda, misinformation, and disinformation have always been a part of the political warfare. Social media and other new platforms have given it a new life. Stop peddling, boo. Let me tell you something, boo-boo. I'm on my square. Obsidian, Obsidian, are you an immigrant? Then if you're not an immigrant ally, get the hell up out my feed. Only ADOCs and allies are welcome. Get the hell up out my feed before I extinct you from my feed. With a push of a button. Don't come for me unless I send for you. This is my people. I am them and they are me. Ain't nobody peddling for shite. We are owed a debt in the trillions over multi-generations that you as an immigrant and these white folks eat from while trying to extinct my people who built all of this wealth. I'm not here for your bullshit. As I was explaining, today was another board election. Now, we haven't had one in years. This biatch exempted me from the board without my voice, exempted me from the general sessions. I am the first and only ADOCs owning a $500,000 property in this building of 8 units. So don't tell me I'm peddling for shit. I am owed it, and my people are owed it. And if you got a problem with that, get the puck up out my feed. I'm not the one for you. Go and watch someone that hates on the very ADOCs that feeds your ass. Don't come up in here with that bullshit. Like I was explaining, I just got finished with a board meeting. That's why I'm late. I read them immigrants and white folks from Genesis to Revelation. The same way I'm reading Obsidian right now to let them know what they allowed this biatch to do to me and to be a voice into how different it's going to have to run. Now, I explained this in my application to become a board member and to be reinstated. I only got my vote and one other. I don't know who that was. The immigrants and the whites are still in control of my property. Only 3. Thank God I have a young white millennial, female, who wants to work with me. Because this biatch has hidden half of our assets. Our reserves are missing $5,000. This is why she colluded to try to take my property by lien, like a noose around my neck. Okay? That's what they do. That's what they do. And my issue with the Asian and the Indian that sat on the board, they allowed this, even though they knew she was scandalous and embezzling, and that I've been trying for years to get her unseated. Because another white inferior placed her here. They colluded to co-opt an entire election to install that Nazi as the president of the HOA. While the Nazi PM counted the votes and would not allow us to count or get a third party to count the votes. This is what we are under as ADOCs, and y'all better wake up before it comes for you and yours. It is no fun to have to rely on your family as the reparations this country owes you. You get in a fight or get out of my way. Don't tell me how to feel about it. Don't tell me how to speak about it. Get the hell about my feed. If you can't handle my heat, get out my kitchen. So this is what's happening to the 82-year-old. I'm going to share the link. I would greatly appreciate if you guys can give what you can to her GoFundMe, because I don't know that we can get her property back, which is now worth $1 million. So what they do is they rack up these interest rates. They compound it to put a noose around your neck, to lynch you economically. Okay? Making it impossible. How in the hell did she rack up $38,000 in HOA arrears? But for the same shite the biatch did to me, compounded interest on every late fee, making it impossible for you to pay on time. I'm the only one they did that to, as the only ADOC's owner in a building where my 1,000 square foot condo, 20-minute walk to the beach, is worth $5.25, $500,000. You see, so I had to get them all the way together as the most senior, the most tenured homeowner in the building, while they get to assassinate my character and deny me a seat on the board. So I'm going to share this with you guys. Give what you can. Every little bit helps to the GoFundMe. The link is inside the article. I'm also going to share with you a petition from the CBC where they're raising money to line their pockets, weaponizing the cashless HR 40. Now, if you want to watch the earlier segment, I walked us through what I need to fill, what I need y'all to fill out. I'm going to put a couple of links here because I need y'all to fill that out because we're not getting them. I didn't get them. As active as I am, a comrade from the DMV sent it to me, and I will be every show talking about it and sharing until this thing goes as viral as these I'm trying not to cuss, as these reality soap operas in the YouTube space. I need y'all to get this information to the people who are politically engaged and who give a damn about ADOCs. Okay? So this first link I'm sharing before I get into the topic. Yes, darling, I am hanging on to my property. God gave me this property. I'm bequeathing it to my daughter so she can get the $3K a month in rent. Hold on, family. So this is for this first link I just shared is for the GoFundMe for the 82-year-old that they have foreclosed on next to the $5 billion Sophie Stadium. What they do is they raise the taxes, unemployed and underemployed ADOCs, so we can't afford to pay the property taxes. Or they do schemes like this, rack up your arrears with a ton of late fees, which compound in interest, so that they can take the property from you to gentrify Inglewood. Because they want whiteness, or folks they make white, to have access to the new Sophie Stadium to the tune of $5 billion. They don't want us to have a thing. But God has spared this property from many a foreclosure. The first time the bank tried to take it, during the collapse under Obama, who enriched 1 million white folks to become millionaires while over half of us lost our properties. Mine almost got swept up as I was going through a modification, a loan mod. They were at the same time dragged it out 2.5 years and then tried to foreclose on me without giving me a response. God fixed it. The banks were sued and the settlement was $25 billion. I got swept up into a permanent principal loan reduction, which cut my mortgage in half. If I were to leave this property, I couldn't even afford to rent a property this close to the beach with my specs. We're talking 1,000 square feet. So know that they will find every way they can to give with the left hand and take away with the right. That's why I need you guys to fill out this lame-ass petition that doesn't include cash. Let me share it with you. I hope I still have it up. I'm going to run through it quickly because the audience that came earlier already got this speech. We need all hands on deck. Everybody gets to be in the movement right now. Here we go. So I'm going to go through it and I'm going to share it with you. I need you to make this go viral because they're giving this to anti-Black racists to fill out and to sabotage the cashless reparations. They've got all of our fixed HR 40 demands, which include not paying them $12 million and adding cash to close the egregious racial wealth gap. Not enough cash, but some cash beats a zero. And so I need y'all to share this. I'm sharing it with you right now. And I'm going to go through it quickly because it's imperative that we ring the alarm that we are being left behind to anchor immigrant and white prosperity as a bottom caste. You better recognize it's happening in real time. It's urgent. Damn it, where is the thing? Hold on, y'all. I see it. Oh, here we go. So let's go through this quickly. I'm going to go back to the top. Let me share this with y'all. You're going to copy that, and we're going to paste it. Now, I'm going to walk you through how you need to respond, okay? It's a copy and paste, y'all, except your name, okay? Let's walk through it quickly. This is our leaderless leaders, Congressional Black Caucus, who works for everybody but ADOX. You don't see the Indians, the Asians, the Hispanics, the Martians, none of them have us included in their caucuses. But the CBC is taking care of all people of color and leaving ADOX out while making us pay for a survey of how we want our reparations to be delivered. So you've got this, and I want to share how you do this. You got to sign it. Now, here, they want your first name, your last name, email address, and the zip code. Now, I'm imploring upon you, because if I didn't get it, as loud as I screamed for reparations for the last 2 years with the movement, I know y'all not getting the emails. You need to put your first name, last name, your email address, your zip code, but do it for every email account you got. Make up some if you've got to, because we need to make up for the people who ain't getting it. Change your names, whoever you got to do, but make the ADOC's voice louder than the white inferior glacier donkeys and the ones who are made white inferior glacier donkeys. Okay? Let me see. I'm coming over to see if y'all can see this. Okay. I'm going to show my little face because I know y'all. Okay. I'm scrolling through. Okay. So it says here, will you sign it, your name, to demand Congress pass the H.R. 40 and guarantee reparations for Black Americans? You have to put in yes. Then they say, thank you. Now we need you to take a short survey on race relations in America. That ain't all they want. They want to hear from you about how you want your reparations. Please answer each question thoroughly and honestly. Republican Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell opposes reparations and said that we were paid for the sin of slavery by electing President Barack Obama. The ignoramus that he is. Do you agree with Mitch McConnell? Now, if ADOCs ain't getting this, a bunch of Mitch's people, a bunch of Trump's people are going to say, yes, they agree. The non-ADOC's president is your reparations. That's why I need you to fill it out 10, 15, 20, 100 times. Because they're not giving this to us. They're giving it to the racists in this country while saying America isn't a racist country. To continue the benign neglect of us and to make you think they're doing something to try to push the needle on this when they're not. They're pandering for 2022. Read between the tea leaves. Read with your third eye. That's what it's there for. Next, which form of reparations are you most likely to support? Now, don't get it twisted. These Mickey Thickies are trying to give you reparations through class-based policies, which don't fix race. When you give free college to whites and immigrants, free housing, free healthcare, access to job opportunities, tax credits, grants, you're giving away our reparations and still tethering us to the bottom because they've given them a bazillion-year head start. But I want you to check off everything and then add this other. I'm going to copy and paste it. Cash. Okay, I selected everything else because we need those exclusively. But I also put other cash. We are owed $150 million per American descendant of chattel slavery per the mayor's consortium. We can buy our own everything without the government giving it away to everyone but us. Okay? I'm going to copy and paste. That's all you have to do. Copy and paste. You ain't got to make it up. If you want to just put cash, okay. You're free to do that. Let me put that over here. No, we don't have to pay, baby. I am going to show you how not to pay. Not that they gave you an option. But we're going to figure that out right now. I'm going to show you. Now, because one of my comrades showed me. You see, the goal is to turn us off because that's what happened to me. When I saw them wanting to charge me, I was pissed and did not submit. So that's what they want us to do. So that the white inferiors and the immigrants made white inferiors can vote against this. So they use this as a deterrent to make sure you don't finish the process. One of my comrades had to tell me I could submit without donating. But that's not how it reads. Let's go on down. Do you believe race relations have gotten better in America since slavery and segregation? An emphatic no. Akin to the lies of old Biden and Obama and Uncle Tim. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission reported that the number of racial discrimination charges reached a whopping 31,073 in 2014. So you know it's 20 times this in 2021. In addition to this, the Southern Poverty Law Center reported that there's been a rise in hate crimes. Would you say that our country is now a post-racial society that's free from racial discrimination, bigotry, and hate? Emphatically, enthusiastically, no. Okay? Black Democrats in Congress are working to pass legislation to combat racism, including measures to grant reparations to the descendants of slaves. Do you support their efforts? Yes. With hate, bigotry, and discrimination on the rise in our country, we cannot slow down, not even for a minute. We need to raise $1,000 by midnight tomorrow to help fund our efforts to support Black Democrats in Congress as they fight to ensure equal opportunity for all. You see that? That's my trigger. I am sick and tired of the leaderless leaders in the CBC constantly trying to give our reparations to everyone. I am sick of the government's benign neglect of ADOX while weaponizing immigration against us before they made us whole, before they've made us American, before they protected us, before they've made Black legal. You have just compounded our problems in the namesake of your capitalism. The Democrats and Republicans alike have done it. So now not only do we have to deal with the albatross around our necks of social injustice, economic injustice, and exclusion, we now have to worry about brown and blue and green and yellow. Because we're being replaced. They're neutralizing our vote the way they've neutralized us economically. This is an albatross. Around the necks of ADOX, we're still being lynched in our 400-plus year Holocaust. So they want money. This is where I got angry. Submit, then donate. If it weren't for my comrade on CJEC, I'd have quit this ish. What you ought to do is press submit, and they'll receive it, and you don't even have to donate. Spread the word. Spread the word. Now, let's get into today's topics. I'll come over to see you guys. Welcome to the live. Yes, your sister's lit. Your sister's lit. Let's talk about Miss Sasha. Now, I got more updates. So if we got to roll anything over, you know we will. It's 7:05. I'll probably go till around 7:40. Let's get in. Black Lives Matter activists in critical condition after being shot in the head in London. That was this was featured on Monday. Wasn't that yesterday? Day before. British Black Lives Matter activist Sasha Johnson is in critical condition after being shot in the head in London, her political party said on Sunday. It is with great sadness that we inform you that our own Sasha Johnson has been brutally attacked and sustained a gunshot wound to her head, the Taking the Initiative Party, TTIP, said in a statement. She is currently in intensive care and in critical condition. Let me let you know what I know. She has been receiving a ton of death threats because of her activism for Black life. You know, akin to the strange fruit swinging from poplar trees, burned up in cars in this country with 3 Ks, of leaders of the grassroots BLM that isn't getting any money from the Federation, not even when they're died to investigate their executions, that are pawned off as they took their own life. That's been happening here. The grassroots, who don't receive a dime from the Federation, who weaponizes Black life and the executions of Black life for a $90 million come up last year. These are the people on the ground, like myself in the reparationist movement. when the FBI labels us since 2017 Black identity extremist and shut down and disable our voices. Speaking of which, did I fly my banner? Thank y'all for joining the line. This is what's happening to us all over. Please like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications, and thank you for your contributions to the broadcast, which helps me do this work. So this is happening, family, all over the world. When you speak up for ADOX, you're neutralized. Your voice is sidelined. You're being censored. This is why I said don't be excited that Donald Trump is getting kicked out of his First Amendment rights, because soon it will come for us, and it has. I'm being shadow banned and disabled. Many of you already know that. So yes, she's got 3 kids and doing what she can with her voice to make Black life matter. So watch what they end up claiming happened. The party said the attack happened following numerous death threats as a result of her activism. London's Metropolitan Police responded to reports of gunfire in southeast London about 3 a.m. local time Sunday morning, it said in a statement. Police said paramedics transported a 27-year-old woman with gunshot wounds to a South London hospital, and that the incident appeared to have happened near a house party in South Wark. The police statement said that at this early stage of investigation, there was no evidence to suggest a targeted attack or that the woman had received any credible threats against her prior to this incident. Lies! Lies! She had been receiving a ton of death threats by the white inferior glacier donkeys in London. But now they're blaming 5 Black guys. Let's get into it. Detectives from the Met Specialist Crime Command, Trident, are conducting an investigation and looking to speak with anyone who was at the party in the Consort Road area of London. It added, quote, a dedicated team of detectives is working tirelessly to identify the person or persons responsible for this shooting, said Detective Chief Inspector Jim Taylor. He added that they need the public's help and urged people to come forward if they witnessed or had heard information about the incident. Taylor added that while he recognized the incident will have shocked those in the local community and further afield, he called on the public to avoid speculating as to the motive or the circumstances behind it. Ain't that what y'all do when y'all lie about said events? About said executions? You just hid Mr. Green's dragging and lynching in Louisiana for 2 years. Where's the body cam? Well, that wasn't the police. Okay. The bottom line is it's hard. Believe half of what you see and none of what you hear when it comes to these race soldiers. They're everywhere. Johnson rose to prominence last year. This is what happens when you rise to prominence, when your voice gets big and they want to silence your voice. During the Black Lives Matter protests as a leader of the TTIP, which has been called Britain's first Black-led political party. She's a mother of 3 and also works to deliver food and groceries to families in need, according to the party, which called her a strong, powerful voice for our people and our community in its Sunday statement. Black Lives Matter UK will host a vigil for Johnson on Monday afternoon outside King's College Hospital in South London. The organization said it is holding the event to show support for her recovery and to take a stand against senseless violence. It asks people to please share and show up to support if you can. In a separate tweet, Black Lives Matter UK hailed Johnson as a young mother and fearless political campaigner who was at the forefront of many BLM protests last summer. Several British lawmakers paid tribute to the dedicated activists in the wake of the shooting. Quote, whoever carried out this dreadful shooting of Sasha Johnson needs to be caught quickly. Give any info you have to MPSS Southwark. Reported death threats will need to be investigated, wrote Harriet Harman, a Labour member of Parliament for Camberwell and Peckham, who also wished Johnson a full recovery. Now, I'm done with that part. I want to give you some updates. My comrades, thanks to my comrades out of Tennessee and Albuquerque, New Mexico. I got them everywhere, y'all. Oh, they just always keep me in the loop, and I'm so grateful. Okay, so breaking. London has now arrested 5 men in connection of the shooting Sasha Johnson, according to the Voice newspaper, which is a Black-owned newspaper in London. Okay, let me go to that because it's not, they didn't give me the full article. 5 men arrested Sasha. So, let's see what this has to say. Let me fill you in on what I know, and then I'll read. Last time I heard, she was at a party, and this was Warring Games, not anyone that was coming for her personally for her activism, and that she was caught in the crossfire, in the wrong place at the wrong time. Okay? Now, many people were speculating, why was she out at 3 a.m.? Is there a sundown? Is London a sundown town? A grown-ass woman with 3 kids can't be out at a party at 3 a.m.? I'm confused. Why she would have to be home? Why she would have a curfew? I don't understand that part. This is a part of the victim blaming and shaming they like to start up, you see. Why are you questioning a 27-year-old mother of 3 about her whereabouts at 3 a.m.? That's what I'd like to know. Anywho, I digress. She actually went through surgery, so she's still alive. Keep the prayers coming for her full recovery and that she's able to be a mother to her 3 children and make an informed decision if she wants to continue activism. I understand her dilemma. My own daughter has expressed concerns. But when you've been assigned to tell Pharaoh to let your people go, it is what it is. We can't all be scared to speak up and out, to speak the TR roof, to tell it like a TI is. Somebody has to have some cojones. Okay, so then I got this for my comrades, and now I'm reading the CNN article. This is today. London police have arrested 5 men on suspicion of attempted murder in connection with the shooting of prominent Black Lives Matter activist Sasha Johnson. Okay, we know she's a mother of 3. She's been in critical condition in the hospital since she was shot in the head at a house party in South London on Sunday. A 17-year-old was arrested on suspicion of possessing an offensive weapon in possession with the intent to supply Class A drugs. According to a Wednesday statement from Metropolitan Police Detective Chief Inspector Richard Leonard, 3 men ages 18, 19, and 28 were arrested on suspicion of affray, a group fight, and possession with intent to supply Class B drugs, while a 5th man who was 25 was arrested on suspicion of affray and failing to stop for police, the statement said. While the investigation remains in its early stages, these arrests show that progress is being made. Are they going to tell us if they were black or white? If they're white, they're not going to tell us. If they're black, they would have said so at the top of the line. 5 black men arrested for attempted murder of Sasha Johnson. And can you both be selling drugs and a white inferior glacier donkey assigned to execute Sasha Johnson at a party? You can't be both. While the investigation remains in its early stages, these arrests show that progress is being made. However, I would continue to appeal to those who may hold information about the events that led to Sasha receiving her horrific injuries or about those responsible to do the right thing and come forward and speak to the police, Leonard said. He added that all 5 men remain in custody. They're white. Johnson and her political party, the Taking the Initiative Party, rose to prominence last year after she helped organize a series of protests against institutional racism in the UK in the wake of George Floyd's murder. I'm still looking for the identification. They're all grown. We've got no names. We've got no photos. How convenient. Let's look it up. Were the men who were arrested in the Sasha Johnson shooting white? You see the puckery? She was attacked and shot in the head while at a birthday party in Southwark. The Guardian reported that 4 men wearing dark clothing made their way to the event, and a scuffle subsequently ensued. Fire rang out, and the activist was hit with one single bullet to the head. Sounds like a blacksmith to me. The suspects fled, and Johnson was taken to a South London hospital where she is still fighting for her life in the intensive care unit. I don't see any pictures. I don't see any names. Just the ages. And that they were men. I'm looking, family. Nothing. That was Revolt TV. Nothing. Had they been black, that would have been the headline. These Mickey Vickies were white inferior glacier donkeys. Mark Smith, a single shot to the head. Does that sound like ironic? Like a coinky dink to you? I'll be over to see what y'all got to say. Samaria Rice. Stop hustling Black death. Samaria Rice is a mother of Tamir, not a mother of the movement. In her memoir, Coming of Age in Mississippi, Ann Moody describes her experience at the 1963 March on Washington. It is not the glorious image to which we have become accustomed. Quote, I sat on the grass and listened to the speakers to discover we had dreamers instead of leaders leading us, she writes. She was a 23-year-old activist in the Black Belt at that time. Quote, just about every one of them stood up there dreaming. Martin Luther King went on and on talking about his dream. I sat there thinking that in Canton, Mississippi, we never had time to sleep, much less dream. Like Moody, Samaria Rice is not inclined to speak in pious ways about a national movement for Black lives. She too is sharp-tongued, if somewhat more profane. Over 2 hours, one May afternoon, elegantly coiffed, with swooping bangs, maroon lipstick, and a silk dress, she told me the story of how she had been cast into the center of the movement at the most tragic moment of her life. Rice, who is 44, says she spent most of her childhood living on the streets in Cleveland, Ohio, after she was put out by her father when she was 12 years old. Quote, I didn't have no mother or father to guide me, she says. She was homeless and relied on small-time hustling, she adds, mostly petty theft. Quote, I come from a very hard-knock life, a rough life, like the majority of ADOCs, whom I speak on behalf of. Without the protection of parents, she found herself having frequent interactions with law enforcement, eventually pleading guilty to assault and going to jail for dealing marijuana, that the states now turn a profit on. And here comes a new wave of the war on drugs, because they'll arrest ADOCs. They won't change the laws. It's still a federal crime. So you can arrest ADOCs for selling the very weed that the white folks own the marijuana shops in our communities and turn a profit on. So now that it's legal, when black folks are caught selling it without a license, they're going to be arrested and placed into the not-so-new slavery called the private prison industrial complex alongside the other nonviolent offenders of peddling weed. That's the new war on drugs. That's the new way to continue the stream of ADOCs men and women into the system for the not-so-new slavery. Without the protection of parents, she found herself having frequent interactions with law enforcement, eventually pleading guilty to assault and going to jail. Okay, but even then, she didn't harbor ill will toward the police. Officers sometimes spoke nastily to her, sure, but Rice, like most black folks, saw them simply as an agency to be carefully navigated in order to stay alive and afloat. She had her first child, a daughter named Tashiana, when she was 18 years old. 3 years later came her son, Tavon, and another daughter, Tajay. 2 years after that, her youngest, Tamir, was born at a difficult time in Rice's life during a volatile and violent relationship with his father. While Biden gives Asians protections and $80.5 million to AAPI for their COVID relief, domestic violence, and anti-Asian racist sentiment. I was a product of my environment, like many ADOCs, she says. Quote, you might need something for your kids and take it. I was on assistance. I didn't really have a job. Highest rates of unemployment and underemployment. Black men, black women only second. a close second, while our affirmative action is used and weaponized against us to employ white women, immigrants, and LGBTQIA. I lived in the streets. I hung around a lot of gangsters and hustlers. And this is why they hire the domestic terrorists to come into our communities to execute us with impunity. State-sanctioned executions for our Black men, women, and children. And they get away with murder. While we still don't have an anti-lynch bill passed into law, it's only been 100 years. And while they're still fighting over whether or not to include the only thing that matters of the George Floyd Policing Act, which is an end to qualified immunity. Every white inferior race soldier, glacier donkey needs to be tried and convicted whenever an unarmed Black man, woman, or child has been executed. And they need to put an end to caring more about the First Amendment rights of domestic terrorists who have infiltrated the police force all throughout the country. They need to stop caring more about their First Amendment right for hire over Black life mattering. Put an end to hiring them, pay the civil suits with their pensions, make them take out insurance to cover the difference. They should never be able to be rehired. They shouldn't be hired in the first place, and they should be held accountable and be executed in the same way they execute us, or spend the rest of their natural lives behind bars. I hung around a lot of gangsters and hustlers, but I wanted something different for my children. Eventually, her 3 older children were placed in the custody of family members. She gave birth to Tamir while living in a shelter. Tamir was very attached to me, she says. We were very, very close. All he really knew was his mama. I had a bad pregnancy with him. I was coming out of a domestic violence relationship. I was just getting back on my feet when I had him. I was able to obtain an apartment and a job and establish myself and get all of my kids back. Sometimes the hospital don't tell you. Nobody tells you. Just because you had your child don't mean it's yours. I told you we are still the government's chattel slavery, especially the least of us, which is the majority of us. You have to go to court and file a motion to get legal custody of your own child, the one that you birthed. ADOX. Once she had completed the court-mandated interventions to get her children back, Rice worked to create better circumstances for them. After successfully navigating the system, she became a parent advocate for children and family services and was asked to train other parents to do so. She got her children into a predominantly white and therefore better resourced school that would provide more services and opportunities. In her neighborhood, she was known as someone who kept an eye on her kids. Hold on, guys, it jumped. She had to know where they were at all times. She says, quote, I've been through a lot in my life. Juvenile, foster care, group homes, living in the streets, living with my man, to back homeless again, she says. It's clear she wanted to write a different story for her children. We're at 7:32. This is a long story, but I hope you come back tomorrow because I'm going to pick it up from what happened to Tamir. Okay? This is Rice's retelling of it. So let me read your comments before I pray us out. We're at 7:33. Thank you for joining the line. Amos says, Wells Fargo found by government to be fraught with racism. Of course they are. They got rid of all the ADOCs down here, not before it killed off 2 of my friends and an associate, all ADOCs. And they replaced us with immigrants who were trained to rob the customers, whom they later fired 5,500 of them while giving John Stump, the CFO, a golden parachute of $148 million. They've been doing this to blacks for years. I can testify. Amos Jones, I know you can, my brother. We talked about it. Brian says, on Inglewood foreclosure, you know they are trying to get her off the property so they can transition a non-ADOS individual into that home after profiting exponentially from it. Hardship vultures. Absolutely. The home is now valued at $1 million. What ADOCs worth a median wealth of $200 liquid can afford $1 million property that her and her late husband purchased over 30 years ago? Amos says, and they waive white homeowners arrearage. I have charts. Cynthia Adiyami says, this is a land grab. This is horrible. Oh, yeah. I told y'all they are ethnically cleansing us about this piece. We better wake up. Amos says, expulsion. Amos says, discriminatory disenfranchisement is alive in America. Read them. Our ancestors, Cynthia says, was the economic engine that built America. And they are trying to make us eat the cost of slavery. We're just supposed to be grateful if we get to live, not that the domestic terrorists that they hire to put in our communities, bullets, no pedigree. They don't give a damn that I'm educated and have tons of experience. I've been working since 13. Institutional systemic racism doesn't give a damn about ADOCs. So we must. Amos says, do not allow them to place a bandana on your head or tie an apron around your waist. Cynthia says, economic genocide. The other board members' silence was the voice of complicity as they sat up there and tried to defend that bullshit. Yes, they were complicit because they too are white inferior race soldiers, Asian and Indian and white. Now sit on the board. I'm the only ADOCs in the building. And when I was showing my property, no ADOCs can even afford to come and look at it. Whites, Indians, and Asians. I've shared with you black immigrants down here are 60,000 liquid. To white folks, 150,000 liquid. To Asian, Indian, Brahmin caste, Kamala's people, $465,000 liquid. And that's from a 2004 to 2014 Color of Wealth LA report. You should see the designs. I'm going to do the show tomorrow that Biden and Harris have to flood us with these wealthy Indian immigrants to finish us off. Everybody they bring it over here comes from a wealth position. while they sit up here and spew this racist rhetoric that we're lazy, no good, and no count, when they know they made us niggers by the law, and tell you and the world this country is no longer racist. You must tune in to tomorrow's midday wake-up call. It's going to be fire. I came to the rest of the anti-black racism segment tomorrow night as we get through more of Samaria Rice's story, which is the Enoch story. Now they're full of apologies and want to Asian-splain why the second longest holder in this property didn't come to my defense, all the while knowing this was a racist. Allowed them to leave me 15 grand on 3 grand in arrears because I don't speak Spanish and it took a year to find a job. Moved in some thugs. I spent since 2007 cleaning up this block for their gentrification of the block. And you move this bullshit in over my head. They're in the process of being evicted because gunshots rang over my head. Been here since 2007. I had to clean it up outside and inside this building. And you want to cry Asian tears at the board meeting just now. And y'all want to white-splain this bullshit that could have killed me or my child. When I told his Asian ass what the hell they had moved up in here so he could collect all that rent. And now y'all want to cry white-splain tears about how you did a background check when I told you these Mickey Fickies were no good. Had me afraid to call the police. I was afraid for retribution. Even when the gunshot rang overhead. I was neutralized because I give a damn about my property. They get to go and afford to be in white neighborhoods and rent to whomever they damn well please that's going to pay that $2,500 a month. They don't give a damn about the welfare of me and my child. As the only ADOX owner, that's why that biatch colluded to kick me out and to lien me so she could seize on the property while getting kickbacks. And they stayed silent and they were complicit. Keep your white-splaining bullshit. I don't want to hear it. I said nothing. I left and came to do my live. After I read them from Genesis to Revelation, letting them know the very thing you just said, Cynthia. You were complicit. You know, I begged y'all to replace this biatch. I begged you. My cries and my pleas went unheard until she did it to you. Now you replaced her with a Hispanic property manager. We'll see how it goes. But I read their asses. They destroyed my character so I would not even be elected. Made me out to be someone who was untimely with her HOA. And you're going to believe her, who did the same thing to you, over picking up the phone and saying, wait, before we kick her off the board, maybe we should allow her to speak and explain. Because the arrears she spoke of was the harrowing late fees associated with the account when she denied me access to pay timely online, you see. With compound interest, it was in the thousands. Now you can make a case to have the board kick me off. This is why I fight. Because white inferior institutional systemic racism has visited me. Since 2009, I've been fighting. And God has helped me to hold on to this property. No sponsors. Amos says, then they demand advance payments after that to run blacks out. Oh, yes. Hang on to your property, Angela. You better know it, sister. God's holding on to the property. Right, we got to pay. Yep. We got to pay for that survey is what she's referencing. Ain't that about a blip? You work for people of color, not anything specific for ADOX. And the one survey you send, you still worried about all, justice for all, when we've yet to receive justice. Brian says that survey was filled with lead-on questions. Yes, they were, because when they give these class-based policies, they're going to say, see, reparations done. Excuse me. Cynthia, you can see, Brian says, you can see the buzzwords pop off the screen. Another white wealth transfer. Another immigrant, and immigrants who are made white, and immigrants with money, and white folks wealth transfer is what they're trying to do and have been doing with our reparations. Brian says, you can see the buzzwords pop off the screen. Then he goes to another screen that talks about putting in more black Democrats. Who exactly are they advocating for, though? Yes, and once you push that button, I've got about 9 more to do. Use up all your emails because they're not sending them to us. They're sending them to the white inferior glacier donkeys who are absolutely going to agree that Barack Obama was our reparations. They're going to agree with Mitch McConnell. They're not sending this to us. If I didn't get it, nobody got it. Okay. As much as I've been screaming on all of them. They ain't advocating for ADOX. You heard me read it. You see it with your own eyes. Right, says Cynthia. I stopped messing with the SPLC a while back when they called the NOI a hate group. Propaganda is to a democracy what violence is to a dictatorship. Obsidian, didn't I tell you to get the hell up out my feed? If you're not an ally, get the hell up out this feed. Don't watch my stuff. Don't even. I only want ADOX and allies. This ain't for nobody else. There is no propaganda here. I only talk data. Look it up. Cynthia said, that's right. It's more painful not to speak out and advocate reparations for ADOS. Reparations for ADOS is a public health intervention at the tertiary prevention level. You know it, sis. Right, that was no coincidence. She's talking about the attempted execution of Sasha Johnson, a Black Lives Matter protester and voice of the Black Lives Matter movement in London. They won't tell us what color these Mickey Fickies were. And when that happens, when they don't give a name and they don't tell a race, they were white. Ain't Revolt supposed to be affiliated with Puff Daddy? Yes, Cynthia. Even he didn't report it. You see what I'm saying? Because he's only a puppet. He has no power. None of them do. We've been neutralized economically. They put those names on it to play the Jedi mind trick on you that these celebrities even give a damn about you when they're in the pockets of the likes of the Biden administration. They're not teaching what I'm teaching about weaponizing the vote. Red top, blue Congress until they cut the checks in the trillions over multi-generations. Spread the word. A trifecta of either party gets us George Floyd, 9 minutes, 29 seconds to the neck, plus the 181 black folks unarmed that have been executed since he was executed. and counting. Last count was in April. We're at the end of May. Brian says, on the new war on drugs makes me think of LaRue Bratcher trying to protect his business, but criminalized for both that and for his license expiring. Oh, yes. He's speaking of a story I covered, I don't even remember when, Monday maybe, about LaRue Bratcher, who only ADOCs I know to own a marijuana dispensary. White man comes up in there, burglarizes a joint. He's on trial for standing his ground and killing the white glacier donkey. He's on trial. Because he ain't supposed to be profiting off of marijuana. He's supposed to go to jail. The plunder of the few ADOCs marijuana businesses out there will be the new wave of gentrification. It already is. Out here, they got whole commissions of black folks who've been released from prison for having peddled marijuana, who now want businesses and can't afford them. They make it out of their reach. And they put that in our communities. They shop and own it, but they retreat with their weed bags to the suburbs. And with that said, family, that concludes my show. I want to thank you one and all for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications, and thank you for contributing to my voice in the reparations movement, offsetting the costs of bringing these lives to you, educating the masses, and advocating for ADOCs. Until tomorrow noon for your midday wake-up call. And again at 6 p.m. for your anti-Black racism report. Know that the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever ADOCs and its allies are, God truly is. Because, family, you are the face of God. You are the voice of God, the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. Know that if no one told you today, I love you, Black family. I love you strong. I thank you for co-anchoring the show with me. Until tomorrow, family, peace.